Alright everybody, so welcome to our next unit here, and our first lesson in that unit on the Age of Exploration Isolation. So today we're going to be talking about the Age of Exploration begins. So we have our objectives and standards to explain the causes of European exploration, and to analyze exploration and expansion by Portugal and Spain. Take a moment there to read the standards. And our desired result is, how did the Age of Exploration begin? So the early stages of European exploration. So in the 1400s, Europeans began mapping new sea routes around the world. Now there are many causes for exploration, but the most important was the search for spices, as you kind of see here, especially spices in India or Asia or things like that. Now, other reasons for exploration included expanding Christianity and claiming land or territory for their country. So, traveling for trade. Even before the Renaissance, Europeans traded with Asian people and groups. Now, most times this trade focused around spices, but like we mentioned earlier, some exploration also focused around spreading Christianity and gaining land or knowledge. Now, a problem with this trade was that Muslims and Italian traders controlled the spice trade in northern Africa. So Europeans are going to want to find another trade route to Asia to gain spices for themselves. So new tools for exploration and trade. Europeans were able to cross wide oceans with the help of new tools and technologies. So we have map makers or cartographers who are making more accurate maps and sea charts. Also, sailors learned how to use the Astrolabe, which the Astrolabe is a tool which helps determine latitude at sea. I'll show you an example of that here on the next slide. And Europeans also developed better ships. Portugal developed something called the caravel, a ship that had better sails and a rudder that made sailing much easier. So here we have an example of kind of like a clip art version of what the caravel looks like, but we'll talk about it more in detail in live class. But you can see here we have it's a better ship with better rudder and better sails, and then over here we have the Astrolabe. So a person would look through here, see the distance between the star or the sky and the horizon where the ocean or the land meets the sky, and then they were able to determine where they were located in a position. So both these things are going to help Europeans explore more distant areas. So taking the lead. A small nation on the western coast of Spain over here is Portugal. So this tiny country was strong enough to expand into Africa and seized the North African coast in 1415. Now, victory in this region sparked the imagination of Prince Henry, who was known as Prince Henry the Navigator. Now, he saw great promise in Africa and believed it could provide great wealth as well. So Prince Henry was determined to find an easier way to reach Asia that bypassed the Mediterranean Sea, and this meant going around Africa. So Prince Henry gathered scientists, cartographers, like we mentioned, those are map makers, and others, excuse me, to help with this task. Now they redesigned ships, they made preparations of maps, and they trained captains and crews in Portugal. And soon Portuguese ships were making their way down the coast of West Africa. So Portugal in Africa. So small forts were built by the Portuguese in West Africa, and there they collected food, water, and supplies to repair ships. There were also exchanges in trade that occurred. Muskets and tools and cloths were traded for gold, hides, ivory, and also slaves. We'll talk about the slave trade in this unit later on. Portuguese sailors then sailed around Africa, and in 1488, Bartholomew Diaz rounded the southern tip of Africa, which then helped open up a trade route through the Indian Ocean and Asia. So, contact in India. Portuguese explorers continued to build forts and expand into Africa. In 1497, Vasco da Gama his picture right here, led 4 ships around a very difficult a waterway near the southern tip of Africa known as the Cape of Good Hope. Even though it's called the Cape of Good Hope, it's very rough waters. But either way, he was able to lead his crews around the southern tip of Africa, and they reached India and Calcutta on the western coast, which is a great spice port. Now, on the voyage home, the crews ran into bad weather and disease. Many died of hunger and thirst and scurvy. Scurvy is a disease from the lack of vitamin C. But despite the trouble, the Gama's troubles helped lead to trading empires for the Portuguese and other countries around the Indian Ocean. Okay, ignore the A and the B there. How did the Age of Exploration begin? Think about some of the causes of the Age of Exploration. Think about how Portugal kind of sparked this Age of Exploration, and that will help you answer your question. I hope you have a great rest of your day or night. If you have any questions or concerns, please let me know, and hope to talk to you all soon.